There we go.
Hey, we are live. Happy Thursday, April 28th, everybody. We're going to do a little run through our weekly development task agenda. Starting with general announcements, there's a new announcement this week that Backdrop was contacted by the organizers of Drupal Camp Czechoslovakia, which is interesting because there isn't a Czechoslovakia anymore. There's like a Czech Republic and a Slovakia, but apparently it's still called Drupal Camp Czechoslovakia. So that's a thing. It's happening, and they want to know more about Backdraft. So if anyone is near Czechoslovakia or interested in traveling to the city in particular is Bratislava. They're having a camp and they want speakers. So Andy says it's in Slovakia. I don't know where that is, but if anyone is interested in going to Slovakia and talking on Backdrop, definitely let us know. We have slides you can present from, or if you want to give your own talk, that's fine. We have resources we can share with you, but they're definitely eager to hear more about Backdrop. So anyone who's located over there or wants to travel there, let us know. Next up, we also have free Calabox alpha access for Backdrop developers. So the way Calabox works right now is it's in alpha and you are required to have a code to download it, and that's just because it's in alpha. As soon as it goes to beta, that code will not be required. But if you want to try it early, we have a sign-up link in the Google Hangout or Google Agenda, the Google Doc. But if anyone wants it, you can, and you're watching this later and you don't have access to the Google Doc or the chat in the sidebar, you can go ahead and send us an email to info@backdropcms.org, and we'll definitely send that off to you. So Calabox, for those of you who don't know, is a local development environment that uses Docker, and it'll give you a setup of Backdrop running locally if you want to try and give that a shot. It's a pretty cool tool. Then, as usual, we do have PHP Storm licenses for Backdrop developers too. So if you want to give PHP Storm a try and you are a Backdrop contributor, you can send us an email to info@backdropcms.org and we can send you a link to get a copy of PHP Storm. If you are a contributor but are not a member of the contrib group, let us know about that too. We can help get you through that process and get you have to be on that list in order for PHP Storm to authorize use of their product. But there's, if you're willing to be a co-maintainer on a project, we can help you with that as well. All right. Also, if you're interested in a Dragon t-shirt or a hoodie, we are giving away as thank you gifts in exchange for donations to Backdrop CMS. So you can donate on the contribute page, backdropcms.org/contribute. If you're already a contributor, either code or passion, we take that loosely. You have earned a Dragon t-shirt, and so we will definitely send them out. And I did get your email, Klonos, and we will definitely let you have t-shirts if that's what you want. Anyone else? I think I sent a couple off last week. So send an email to info@backdropcms.org if you would like a t-shirt sent to you. We can have those go out too. Updates from the PMC. We currently have a couple of votes going for new core committers. I was hoping to be able to announce one today, but we're still missing a couple of people, and we have a couple of the PMC members are out of town this week as well. So coming soon, as usual, we should be able to have an update for that for you next week. And I want to turn it over to Nate for community growth.
Yay. Let's see. It's been an exciting week. In contrib land, we're seeing some modest growth, but I think most of our focus with our small communities on core these past couple of weeks. So, but we're still seeing some activity. Let's see. We have 238 total projects for Backdrop listed on GitHub. That's 2 new projects since last week. I haven't actually checked which ones they are, but still exciting to see new modules coming in, or layouts as they may be. Let's see, there's 159 total projects with official releases on backdropcms.org. No new modules listed on backdropcms.org since last week. But as those new projects show up on GitHub, as soon as they make their first official release on GitHub, they start showing up on backdropcms.org as well. So we'll probably be seeing some more of those coming up real soon. There's 224 releases of those projects on backdropcms.org, one new release since last week. And most exciting, in my opinion, is that there's, oh, hang on, that number's not updated, 53 total backdrop contrib authors. We have a new contrib author, David, also known as D. Kenyon, or D. Kayan, from Drupal.org, which is pretty exciting. Bringing 15 years of Drupal experience. He's got a 3-digit user ID. That's pretty exciting. Coming over to the world of Backdrop, he's ported 7 modules so far, but he hasn't transferred them into the Backdrop contrib group. He also wrote a pretty sweet shell script that actually does the porting of modules for him, which is pretty cool. Just does all of the the legwork, the find replace, the make hook config info, the update the settings form, update the info file, those sorts of things, which is pretty sweet. You can find his application in the closed Backdrop contrib list, and that's where he posted that gist. I suggested that he maybe we push that into the drush queue or something like that, somewhere where it's a little more permanent. But yeah, we'll figure that out. Anyway, welcome, David. We're really excited to have you. We have 208 total user accounts on backdropcms.org. Last week we had 160, so that's 48 new signups since last week, which probably had something to do with the newsletter that we sent out that told people, hey, you can create a user account, and so a lot of people did. So that's really exciting. Yay, marketing, it works. Yeah. So that's exciting. We're really glad to see those new users coming on to backdropcms.org as well. Okay, infrastructure, things that are around Backdrop the project that aren't the project itself, mostly drush, GitHub Integration, and our flagship website. The first item on the agenda here is usage statistics. Our usage statistics has been kind of working for months now. I actually took a look at it this weekend and reran the number crunching script several times to work out some kinks with it. So now we're up to date as to last weekend, but I checked on it today, and of course it's not crunching new numbers again. Oh, this darn thing. Anyway, so we're all up to date up until a week and a half ago. So we have all the usage numbers on everything for almost half a year now. But for some reason, it's not crunching new weeks now. So I'm going to have to take yet another look at that. If anyone's interested in helping with that, it's just project module that has the bug in it, and we're trying to work that out. After we get it doesn't have to be afterwards, but once we get usage statistics working consistently, we also would like to add charts to the usage pages. That's issue 98 in the backdropcms.org queue, and also start tracking not just modules that are enabled, but specific features within those modules, which is issue 99 in the backdropcms.org issue queue. So those projects will take a little bit of work collaborating between core, which needs to report that and update module, contrib and project module, and backdropcms.org itself. So those sorts of tasks take a little bit of collaboration, but it all ties together. Let's see. Next item on the agenda here is drush for Backdrop. It says here that Jeff might give an update, maybe?
Sure. The only new thing is that I took the Calabox for a spin, and you can spin up Backdrop on there, and they have the drush extension installed on it, and it works really fun. It's pretty easy to use. Drush DL wasn't working because it didn't have wget in the container, but I found an issue 1284, and he says that would be pretty easy to fix, so that's good. And Calabox uses PHP 7, which is kind of fun. I didn't play around with it too much, but Backdrop was working on it nicely, PHP 7, and it was MySQL 5.7, which gives us some more confidence in one of those issues we had a while back.
Right.
Going through the installer.
Right. Yeah. Nice.
And the rest of it is the same old. If you give drush a spin, make sure you're on the 8.x branch. And if you have a favorite drush feature, put some issues in the drush issue queue. Like the one Nate mentioned, that would be pretty cool, I think, to have that automated module porter do some of the legwork. That would be pretty neat. And that's what's going on with drush from my perspective.
Awesome. Yeah, that's cool about using PHP 7 by default in the new containers. Eventually, we talked about it for weeks. I'll publish my findings on performance from Backdrop on 5.5, 5.6, and PHP 7, which it's faster, of course. But we also run automated tests on PHP 7 all the time on Travis, so we know with a high degree of certainty that the Backdrop already runs on PHP 7. I actually was doing some research on Drupal 7 and PHP 7. I thought that they were working, but they still have some like pretty serious issues. Like you can load a Drupal website on PHP 7, but there's like session handling problems, which can be pretty bad. So it's just one of those things. So I guess it's still relevant that Drupal 7 and PHP 7 really not working together quite yet. But we've had our PHP 7 support working since pretty much the week PHP 7 came out. So anyway, exciting. Let's see. Next item here, the flagship primary website, backdropcms.org. Jen, you've been doing a bunch of stuff on backdropcms.org. Why don't you take this?
Sure. I'm not sure there's much new since last week. We are currently working on a showcase section, and I know, Eric, you volunteered to help do some of the site building on that, so thank you in advance for all of your hard work. We are still waiting on designs for that, so that isn't going to be ready anytime particularly soon, but I think getting a place for people to add stuff is a great first step. Other things we want to include on the website is a single sign-on feature with GitHub, so anyone who has a GitHub account doesn't have to also create a separate account on backdropcms.org. They can just click a button and have a username. I think would also be great for all the people who are already on our site to be able to link their current account with GitHub. So there's a lot of single sign-on solutions for Drupal that do this already. We can definitely look at that. I think we looked to see if there was already a single sign-on with GitHub module for Drupal, and there's not. There's a couple of ones that are a little bit similar that we might be able to pull from, but I don't think there's anybody working on single sign-on for Backdrop CMS yet. So that item or issue is currently assigned to need volunteers. So apparently Andy created a module that does single sign-on for Drupal. So maybe, I know you've got a lot on your plate right now, Andy. Maybe next month or the month after that, we can get your expertise on the single sign-on issue for Backdrop as well. Things that we recently added is the service provider listing, which is in the sidebar. We've got a link called support. Long term, we're going to be adding other stuff in there, like the documentation section that Doc Wilmot has been doing a bunch of work on. There's also been a bunch of conversations about putting forums back on the agenda for things we can do for backdropcms.org, so I think it might be a good time to revisit that. I checked out WordPress's site, and they have both forums and documentation under support section as well as their service providers. So I thought we might kind of model that once we get all of those features done. Right now, all we have in that section is service providers, and I would be open to changing the link title from support if it's not anything else related to support yet. So that's a follow-up we've got on that issue. We are waiting for a design review for the service provider listing, as well as the event listing, as well as the news section. So anybody who wants to do kind of a design pass on the site and make sure we're up to snuff with the rest of our kind of aesthetic on the site, that's definitely going to be appreciated. We also have a bunch of follow-up issues related to the find module themes and layouts pages. Some of those are technical, or we just don't have the data we need to display, and we need to figure out how to get it. Some of them are design implementations, but in general, there's a lot of improvement that could happen there. I think the more people start using Backdrop, the more important it is we get those pages sorted out. And especially with Project Browser going into core, people are going to be using data from that feed a lot more in the near future as well. So I think that once we get Project Browser done, these pages will start to become more of a priority. Okay, so that's all we've got on the Backdrop website. I think the forums topic is going to be the biggest can of worms, so we'll maybe talk about that in a little more detail next week. Next up on the agenda is news and announcements. I'm very excited to announce that we have a blog post ready to go up today. There's no more of this. Does anyone have anything they want to share? We've got one this week, which is really exciting. Alec from Calamuna wrote a great post on Calabox and Backdrop support, so we'll get that up either later today or first thing tomorrow morning. And hopefully people will love it. Next newsletter is scheduled to go out after the next version of Backdrop comes out. So Backdrop is scheduled for May 15th. The newsletter is currently slated for May 20th, so that'll give us a couple of days to work out any kinks as needed and push another release if needed before we send the newsletter. If you are particularly passionate about marketing, there is a tag in the backdropcms.org queue just for you. It's audience marketing, so go ahead and take a look there. There's a bunch of stuff that us developers are not so good at, and we would love to get some help from people who have insight into marketing, and there's definitely a bunch of stuff there that is not a huge time commitment. If you only have an hour or so to contribute to Backdrop, we could use your help. All right, so next on the agenda is Backdrop CMS itself. Nate, do you want to do an update on the next release or the last release?
Yeah, so the next bug fix release is 1.3.6. That's on an as-is-needed basis. We've got 5 issues currently that are tagged for that release, some of which look like they are TBC'd. So that's great. We'll probably be seeing that in the next couple of weeks, probably prior to 1.4, or if not, we also have a history of doing 1.4 or doing a minor release and the last bug fix release for the previous version at the same time. So at the very latest, it'll be May 15th. Yeah, speaking of May 15th, that's when the next version comes out, which is really exciting. There's all kinds of things that we've been working on hard for the past 3 months, about 3.5 months, and we're excited. So May 15th is 1.4.0, and we have a bunch of major items here that we're rushing to try to get those things completed. The first item on 1.4.0 is redirect module. Redirect module is issue 905. That was merged this week. Yay! Yay, one major feature down. Very exciting. That's really exciting. We did a whole bunch of work making redirect module core friendly. We more tightly integrated it with path module and made it so that they work better together than the contrib version had previously. We also fixed a bunch of bugs that had to deal with circular redirects. Circular redirects were really common in the Drupal 7 contrib version, and we fixed those so that it's smart that if you rename a title and then rename it back to the original, it will add the proper redirects and update the aliases without causing a loop, which was really frustrating. We also de-entityified it, so redirects are still objects, but they are no longer entities, which makes for an overall a lot simpler architecture. It also makes it so that things make sense again in a lot of ways, because in the port that we had from Drupal 7, it was entities, so it was using entity storages, but it also was still tied to the database. So you couldn't really use it as an alternate, like as an entity anyway. So yeah, there was some weirdness. Now it's just all just classic, it's in MySQL, and that's the way it goes, which makes for less complexity and probably better performance. Although with redirects, they're pretty lightweight because they're only checked when you land on a redirect. So anyway, that's really exciting to see that merged in. We do have a couple of follow-ups for redirect module. We'd like to make it use dialogues on the node form. And there's a UI issue or two around it, but it's great. It's in great shape for 1.4. Next item on the list here is references. It looks like Mike is not here, but he's been doing a ton of work on references in the past couple of weeks, I know. There's been a lot of activity in his Sandbox repository. It's not in the contrib group, it's just in Mike McCaffrey's GitHub account. Anyone want to volunteer that knows any more information about that than I do? No. Okay. Anyway, it's exciting to see that moving along. We are running out of time, of course, so we'll see what comes out of Mike's magical sandbox here in the next couple of days, because we really need to get it at the point that it needs to be getting integrated into core at this point, and we need things like an upgrade path, or figuring out how we're going to deal with an upgrade path, because there's several contrib versions of alternatives, and how are we going to move those into using the core version of references. Anyway, it's issue 1301. If you would like to help Mike or review the work that's been done so far, that would be greatly appreciated. New front-end theme is issue 1361. Wes has been working on a new theme called Basis. We just had the design call earlier today, which might be the best way to catch up on it. But is Wes in this group? I guess he.
I am backdrop.
Okay, you are backdrop. The talking backdrop logo. All right, Wes, can you give us a short update on Basis?
Sure. Yeah, I broke my webcam today. Get a new one soon. Anyway, yeah, so I got some great feedback from Graham, and there's some issues with the way I'm positioning the header. It's starting to feel beta ready, but there's definitely some important fallbacks and features that I want to get in before 1.4. And we just talked about how we will start getting layouts and basis kind of in the same repo so we can test them together, because they're going to be part of the new default setup for backdrop. So yep, want to test that all together, make sure it all works together well, and get rid of some overlap where I was duplicating some effort for stuff Andy's doing with layouts. So yeah, I'll have a lot more updates pushed probably today and this weekend, hopefully. So yep, that's it.
Super. And then the next issue on here is core layouts, which is in a lot of ways related to the new core theme, but it's still a separate issue, which is 698. We're doing a whole bunch of work trying to figure out how to add new layouts to core for the next release. It looks like it's almost certainly going to be Bootstrap based, and you can read more about it in that issue. It's getting to be quite a long thread, but we also just talked about it for a good half an hour in the design call earlier today, and so there's a link in the agenda to the YouTube video if you'd like to watch the discussion there about how to deal with the new core layouts. Yeah. I promised in the issue that I would let somebody else talk about core layouts, because I have not been the most involved person on this topic. So why doesn't Jen, why don't you give an update?
So we have, I think it was sometime in the last 2 weeks, we're like, we're not sure this is going to happen. And then there was this huge pushback from everybody who's like, no, we really want it to happen. So we tried to figure out how to kind of control the scope and get it going, and I think we came to a really good conclusion. We kind of talked around in circles a little bit in the issue, and now we have a to-do list of items that we need to resolve in order to get them in. So I think it looks manageable to get done in the next few weeks. It would be better if we get it done like now, and then we'd have a week to review it. So I know Andy's working on it. I'm going to work on it. Wes is going to jump in. We're all going to try and create a little magic in Andy's magical sandbox, and hopefully we'll figure out how to get our new core layouts working with the new core theme, and we'll do some testing on Bartik, and we'll do some testing on some other contrib themes and make sure everything is going according to plan. But if you guys are interested in what is left to be done, you can check out the issue queue for that. It is number, just looking at it, 698 in the queue. So definitely we could use more hands on deck if anyone's interested in testing that out and helping us get it to the finish line.
Great. All right, other items for 1.4. We have improving the rich text editor in here. That's issue 1087, which is a meta issue of a bunch of sub-issues. The only really critical item we have from that issue, I mean, there's a lot of things we can improve about the rich text editor. There's no doubt about that. But many of those things in that meta are bugs, and bugs we can really fix at any time as long as they're not API breaking. So we've got a lot of bugs that we can fix at any time, but the real key item that we have for the next release is we just need to make sure that we upgrade CK Editor to the latest release, which does involve minor changes to CK Editor itself, but it's a minor update just like we're doing a minor update. And it would be great to get updated so that we can support some of the latest features in CK Editor, at least opening the door to using some of the new plugins that they've written since Backdrop was released. Let's see. Other items. We have these in a separate category in the agenda because they weren't on the original outline for 1.4. But it looks really likely that it'll happen, and that's we've got user experience improvements, but in particular we're talking about Project Browser. Project Browser is issue 1399. We've done a ton of reviews and a ton of work on this. Doc Wilmot has come back and pushed update after update after update to Project Browser. I think that it's getting really, really close. It's my agenda for this week is to review and push that forward. So I think we'll probably be seeing the merge of Project Browser this next week, which would be really exciting to have another major feature down for 1.4.0. That's issue 1399. It's really fun to go and try it out. You can use one of the live sandboxes, or you can pull it down locally. It basically just exposes the ability to find and install modules, themes, and layouts within the UI. It actually isn't a new feature to be able to do this because Drupal 7 has always had the ability to install modules and themes from the UI. It's just that you had to copy and paste a URL into a field, which is very awkward. And so this adds that ability in a much more usable and findable way that you can just click install new module from the top of the modules page, or find new modules from the top of the modules page, and then find the module you want, or bulk find modules you want and install them all at once. It's actually really, really cool. Yeah, there's also a bunch of other issues tagged with UX in square brackets on GitHub. If you would like to find other issues that improve the usability of Backdrop, there are a slew of them. There are also DX issues for developer experience. Again, square brackets, DX. Both of those categories we're trying to continuously improve all the time. If you feel passionate about those things, filing pull requests or working on those issues is always appreciated. That's all we've got. As far as the main weekly agenda goes, we have sprints every Thursday. That's today. We'll be hanging out in Gitter, chatting together. We will also be in the GitHub issue queue. Probably a lot of action around layouts and themes because there's been a lot of activity on those areas in the past couple of days. I'm also going to take a look at Project Browser. So if you're interested in participating, now is a great day to be doing so. The GitHub issue queue, of course, is github.com/backdrop/backdrop-issues. And that's where all of our primary work for Backdrop Core happens. Gitter is gitter.im/backdrop/backdrop-issues as well. And you can meet up with all of us in real time there. We also have an IRC channel, although it's kind of fading away. Not a whole lot of activity happening there. As well as a Reddit channel. Again, not a whole lot of activity happening there either, but they are there if you really prefer those tools. They are available. reddit.com/r/backdrop. Upcoming events. There are a lot of exciting things on the horizon for Backdrop in which you can meet Backdrop people in person. There's an iCal feed that you can get from the agenda, or you can visit backdropcms.org/news/events. A couple of things that are on the horizon. Civicon, we will be there talking about using Backdrop and Civi CRM together, which is coming along very nicely. Twin Cities Drupal Camp, DrupalCorn, Bay Area Drupal Camp, lots of exciting things. We'll see about Drupal Camp Czechoslovakia. That's so weird that it's called Czechoslovakia. Anyway, the Czech Drupal Camp, we would love it if somebody is available in the area that is going to be going to that camp. They want to hear about Backdrop. We have slides that you can use to talk about Backdrop. So if you're going to go to that event, please let us know and we can help coordinate making a Backdrop presentation happen. Books, beginning backdropcms.org, or backdropcms.org. Beginning Backdrop CMS will be out June 22nd, the first full-length Backdrop book. We're really excited. It's by Todd Tomlinson, the same author as Pro Drupal Development, and it will be out on A-Press. He also has a book, Migrating from Drupal to Backdrop, that is out already, that is like a short guide on moving your Drupal sites over to Backdrop and what some of the basic differences are. Really excited for Todd's new book and excited to have such a great resource. Oh, all right, that's it for our agenda for real now. We, at the end of the meeting, have Q&A from everyone that's present. Anyone have any comments or questions?
Can we, is it easy to put the agenda link in the description of the YouTube video so that when people watch it, they could click on the agenda and follow along?
I saw Jen nodding. So Jen usually posts the summary afterwards, and yeah, we can start adding the agenda, because you're right, we regularly reference the agenda during the YouTube calls, so that would be great.
I think it's supposed to be there. Usually when I create the Hangout, I put the agenda link in the Hangout description, and the Hangout description is automatically supposed to become the YouTube description. So I'll look into that. It could be that we either forgot or that it's not populating automatically, but it's supposed to. We'll find out.
Cool. Anyone else?
Is there any DrupalCon stuff going on? Are there going to be any Backdrop meetings? You know, I know there's no sessions or anything, but are there?
We are, so there is going to be a Backdrop release coming imminently after DrupalCon, and so we are definitely going to be doing a lot of Backdrop coding while at DrupalCon, but we don't know like where or when or any of that, but we'll figure it out. There's probably going to be like a coder lounge at the hotel or something that might be a good place. I think when we get there and see the lay of the land and figure out where it is that we're welcome, we'll probably tweet as Backdrop CMS that things are happening and people can find us that way.
Yeah, I know last in LA we did a dinner, which I think was fun. And we might do something similar again. But yeah, like Jen says, once we get the lay of the land, we'll be more capable of deciding if that's a good idea. But I mean, last time it turned out to be a great idea. We had like 40 people show up to our dinner, which was really exciting. Yeah, there won't be any official things, but Jen and I are going to be there, as are a lot of other Backdrop people. So we will definitely be meeting up one way or the other.
All right. So sprints at a strip club on Bourbon Street.
Wait, I don't know, sprints, not strips. Yeah. So if you can find a sprint club, then we will meet up there.
No, it should be good. It's right on the French Quarter. So.
Okay. I think that's it. Thanks again, as always, for everybody joining the meeting, and thanks everybody for watching. We really appreciate it. Oh, sorry, Gregory, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, sorry. I have a few things. I don't know if you guys, you and Jen, received the email that I sent you. There's a few points. I had a couple of questions, or there's a few things that I thought that maybe at least the PMC should be aware of. And it is kind of related to things that you mentioned, like the events. I would like to sort of like have a general idea of what's the status between us and the Drupal community and the Drupal association specifically when it comes to events, because at some point I don't recall the specific event, but I remember either you or Jen saying that you've been invited someplace, but then the Drupal association sort of like politely asked you not to talk or something like that. So I was wondering what's the situation, and I don't. If I am to attend any local events, I don't want to be stepping in anybody's toes, So, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a good question in general. Like, how should Backdrop people be in the Drupal community? And what we've found is that it is only at DrupalCon where we've actually been discouraged from talking about Backdrop. That's where the Drupal Association has asked us not to present. And so we go to DrupalCon because we love DrupalCon and we love all of our Drupal people, but we don't talk about Backdrop there. If you want to give a talk on something else, and then, you know, while you're there, talk about Backdrop in hallways or parties or whatever, that's fine. But they don't want you to give any talks on Backdrop. But we have found the opposite experience at camps and meetups, where usually organizers of the camps approach us and ask us to come to their camp and talk about Backdrop. And I feel like anywhere, or even if it's not an organizer, if it's someone in the area that says, hey, you know, we're going to be doing X thing in Portland, please come to Portland, and I want to hear about whatever, then it's coming from the community, and so it feels like that's a much more comfortable place for us to give the talk. And so in general, if anyone asks, please talk about Backdrop, whether it's coming from a camp organizer or a local person, then we feel like it's valid for us to go and talk about Backdrop. If you want to attend an event and want to talk about Backdrop, I would definitely say, you know, submit a session. If they don't want you to talk about Backdrop there, they won't accept it. Most camps have a usual process for that. And we're just kind of trying to abide by what people want. If you feel like there is more animosity at one camp than another, you might want to approach the organizers ahead of time and say, hey, would you guys be open to me submitting a session about Backdrop? And just kind of make sure that you're not upsetting their sponsors or whatever they've got going on. That in general, people, you know, we're all Drupal people too. We like people, they like us. For the most part, it hasn't been an issue. I would just say act as you would normally act, and it should be fine. We have been to a lot of Drupal camps and handed out Backdrop shirts, and then been surprised and honored that everybody like instantly puts on the Backdrop shirt. So it's definitely cool to wear a Backdrop shirt at a Drupal event. It's also cool to hand out Backdrop shirts at Drupal events in general. But we have been trying to avoid anything that looks like advertising. So we don't generally have a booth for Backdrop at a Drupal event. We try not to have ads on websites for Drupal events because we don't want to feel like we're, stealing Drupal people. We want to feel like they want us there. And so that's kind of the line we're trying to walk, is like, we're all friends, and we're all doing similar software, and we do it because we love it, and we're trying not to make anyone angry. So use your best judgment, I would say. I do owe you a response to your email. Thanks for writing in and asking. But in general, I think we're all good people, and if we kind of just abide by how we're feeling about things, other people will understand.
Yeah, this pretty much covered everything I wanted, because that was a subsequent question to whether, if we go to such events where we are not welcomed to talk, whether we should be wearing our backdrop t-shirts, or if people find that hostile. So yeah, you pretty much answered that question. Then the third point that I have here, Jod, is like, I'm in Australia currently, and I would like to contact other people that are interested in or registered in the backdrop cms.org and are in either my area, like Melbourne, or other territories in Australia. And I was wondering if there is a way for us to sort of like have a list of those people, or if there's any privacy concerns with contacting them without them asking, stuff like that.
So we did only last week, I think, add a location for user profiles on backdropcms.org. We do not currently have any way to search anyone by location, but I think that's a good point. I know on Drupal.org it lists specifically where you're located on your profile page. We haven't even included that yet, I don't think. So it'd be good to do that, and then maybe also figure out some way to let people find other people close to them. I think it's a good idea. I think you're right that if we're going to eventually want to have our own user groups, people are going to need to be able to find out which users are close to them, and so we just need to figure out how to build a way to do that onto the site.
So, sorry. So I was thinking, because I don't know if there should be like a checkbox on their profile to say allow people near my area to contact me or something like that. We'll figure it out, but so long as this is a subject that everyone is aware of, it's cool. And then the fourth point that I had on my email is I've been contacted by a Greek person. He's actually I think the lead or the sole translator of WordPress for the Greek community or something like that. And he contacted me via email past February. Unfortunately, his email slipped off my radar. And he was asking whether I was keen on starting a support forum with him for Backdrop. I have replied to him that I don't think it's a good idea, to sort of like see how Nate before mentioned that we have Reddit and ISC, and these are sort of slowly dying off. And I told him that it's a best thing if we found a central place to sort of like concentrate our support efforts. And then since Gore is in the meeting as well, and he's been messing with GitHub, I don't know if there was a way, as I mentioned, to sort of like have the issue queue, which is not user-friendly, from the GitHub being reflected or copied over to Backdrop CMS. And if a person that is registered in Backdrop CMS can sort of like create an issue node, and that would automatically create an issue on GitHub, and then sort of like we have these things synchronized, because people find it, especially Drupal people, find it more familiar to sort of like go to the CMS website, the official CMS website, and then find their support link, and then there should be like an issue queue, and then they file requests through there. So yeah, that was his point as well. He said that he doesn't find GitHub or Reddit that user-friendly. So yeah, I didn't know how to respond to that, but if and I know it's going to be a big undertaking if we do that, but I would like to know how everybody feels about the idea of having something like that.
Yeah, I saw that issue come in, and it was definitely interesting. I agree that GitHub is not user-friendly. It's not a good place for people who aren't developers to work. Unfortunately, I think I'm not a fan of having two issues, like one on the issue queue and one on GitHub, just because I think that's going to become kind of a nightmare in terms of maintaining them. I also think that's bad for SEO if you're trying to find an answer to a question that's considered duplicate content, and both pages are going to be decreased in page rank. But I think that it is a good point that it would be nice if we could enable people to post questions or comments in the issue queue from backdropcms.org, and there's probably a way that we can do that through the UI or through the API for GitHub. I just don't know what that would look like. Like, do we have like a generic backdrop user that adds comments, and how do they find? Also, searching on GitHub is not good, but how do we help people find the particular issue, or do we just automatically create new ones? And then do we have people like watching the issue queue to try and figure out whether these are duplicates or not? It just seems like a big problem. I think it might be better, and this is kind of what I was thinking about anyway, if we can set up some kind of a curated forum that would then point to relevant issues in GitHub, so that people can say like, oh, I'm having problems installing, and it can be more actual support on backdropcms.org, and then it's like, oh, we found a bug, and then we'll have an issue in the issue queue for developers that explain the bug and the progress, and so the forum would just say like, keep an eye on the issue, but then it isn't necessarily necessary for those people to engage in the issue. If we can get enough people kind of watching the support forum, we can have kind of GitHub ambassadors who are responsible for like, okay, I've read your forum post and I'm working on creating an issue for you in GitHub, and I can link the two of you together. And I think over time, people who are comfortable in the forum will learn how to use GitHub, but maybe we can kind of help get them over that initial intimidation by having people help. I don't know. It's definitely a hard problem. Like, we're using GitHub because it's GitHub, not because it's the best tool that's out there. But I think for developer engagement, it's important that it's GitHub. I don't know how to make that easier for non-developers, but I think having some tool for non-developers to use is important, which is why I think revisiting the we need our own forum issue is a good place to start. And then if we can figure out how to kind of have a conversation in one place and bugs in another place, there might be a better way to kind of bridge that gap. I don't know if anyone else has any other strong feelings on how to help people who aren't GitHub friendly get the help they need with Backdrop.
Yeah, I do like the idea of integrating with GitHub, not duplicating, but like our search is not great on backdropcms.org, but we could make it so that in addition to searching our content, there could be an option for search issues, and then you can use the GitHub API to search GitHub. Then we could even show the results on backdropcms.org, but then when you click on them, it's going to go to GitHub. And that way people that come to backdropcms.org like wanting to report a problem or something like that, they can find, oh, here's the issue list, and have it search. Although, that would only be for core. Like there's other, we'd have to figure out how to deal with contrib and things like that, because otherwise, yeah, there's lots and lots of issues.
Yeah, I also like the idea of integrating. Like if we could build a form that would post to GitHub and a search tool that would search GitHub, we can definitely help people get to where they need to be. I just am a little bit worried about like core versus contrib is a problem we have on GitHub, and that's going to be hard for new people to understand. Like why can't I find a problem with my contrib module the same way I can with my core module? But there might be a way we can bridge that gap too if we do the search integration, where we can have it search the contrib group as well as the core group and aggregate results from all of those issue queues. It isn't going to be a lot of work for us, but I think there is a way we can solve some of these problems.
Yeah, I think if we can have the forum on Backdrop CMS be discussion about the issues and how people want it to be, and then we could have a taxonomy term or something that says ready for dev, and then that's when it goes to GitHub. One of the frustrations as a developer I had in Drupal and in Backdrop is when I have 2 hours to dedicate to something and I want to contribute back to open source, You don't know what to pick, and then you pick one, and it's really not ready for dev. It's not fleshed out how the functionality wants to be yet. So if we have those things that are ready for dev, and then they go to GitHub when they're ready for dev, I don't think we can completely eliminate that problem, but I think that would be a better developer experience, especially for people who are looking to get into contributing. But it would be hard. It would be a lot of curating. We'd need eyes on the content, stuff like that.
Yeah. I think it's a good conversation for us to have. I don't think we're going to come up with an answer right now. I think starting with building a forum is a good first place, and then we can figure out how we need to help get people to issue queues or not, or if we need to have more integration with search. Like we'll figure out what all of our problems are, and hopefully in using the tools we'll somehow figure out potential solutions and get them going. But I do like integrating with GitHub and not duplicating as much as possible. I don't know that we can do a better job than GitHub at user experience, but I think that we will have we have a very different audience in a lot of ways. We've got a bunch of people who aren't going to be developers, and GitHub is primarily for people who are developers. So trying to figure out how to tailor what we do to account for our entire audience is also going to be something GitHub's not thinking about. So better, maybe not, but encompass more people, possibly. So yeah, let's keep thinking about it, because this has been a problem since the beginning of Backdrop. It's like, how do we make it easier for non-developers? We've got to start solving it. So thanks for bringing that up, Gregory, and we'll definitely try and make some progress.
Last thing, since you sort of like mentioned it, it's related to that. I think that we should continue at least, or have at least a summary of the barriers for implementing something like that. I don't have much time today, but later tonight I will file an issue so we have a place where we talk about it, or at least have a list of ideas or things that we need to tackle, at least that. All right, that's it.
Great. Anyone else have anything you want to talk about today? Okay. Well, we are back to the issue queue. Thank you, everybody, for joining and watching and contributing as usual, and we will see you soon.
All right, bye, guys.
Bye.